Hello, Jessie Katz Greenberg here, and today I am sharing tips and ideas for getting started with Shrinky Dinks. Shrinky Dinks are a type of plastic that shrinks with heat, making it a great material for jewelry and accessories as well as art and miniatures. I'm using rough and ready Shrinky Dinks, which have a rough or matte side and a glossy side. We will draw on the side with the rough or matte finish. This helps for our drawing materials to adhere well to the plastic. Your first Shrinky Dink project should be to create a kind of cheat sheet that you can reference on all future Shrinky Dink projects. You might be wondering, how much do Shrinky Dinks shrink? Even though the rule of thumb is that Shrinky Dinks will shrink to about 1/3 of their original size, it can be hard to visualize what that will actually look like. So the first part of our cheat sheet is to draw a ruler along one edge. I drew notches every 1/2 inch with a pencil, then went over those with fine point Sharpie and added numbers at each inch. Next, I measured to make a grid with pencil, creating 1-inch squares that I'll use to test out different drawing materials. Here, I'm just finishing creating each of those individual squares. First up is fine point Sharpie. I outline the 1-inch square and next to it, label what material I'm using. I'll also fill in part of the square. By filling in just part of it, I am able to see how this solid area of Sharpie will look, but I leave part of the square open so I can see what the line weight of the Sharpie will look like shrunk as well. Next up is colored pencils. I start by doing the same thing, but this time I'll blend 2 colors of colored pencil together. I'm using Prismacolor pencils, which are particularly good for blending, but the Shrinky Dink surface is different from paper, so it can take some practice. Again, remember to label what material you've used to easily reference later. The third material we'll try is a Sharpie pen. This has a thinner line weight than the fine point Sharpie, so we will compare how they look next to each other once this has shrunk. The last drawing material we'll try is acrylic paint. Just like the colored pencil, it's good to test out blending colors to see how it comes out. Like me, you might find it difficult to blend acrylic paint on Shrinky Dinks. And don't forget to label the square with what material you used. You can cut out your cheat sheet because it's not likely that you will use your full 8.5 by 11 page for this, and we will save the rest of the page to use later and on other projects. If you have any fun-shaped paper punches, that is another tool you can include in this cheat sheet. I'm using a 1-inch circle punch to be able to reference what that looks like later. I'll shrink this circle itself as well. Next, we'll test a corner rounder punch on just one corner. If you have fun-shaped scissors and want to test those out, you can cut out separate pieces of shrink plastic to test each one. I measured 1-inch squares again, but looking back, I could have done 2 inches to make these samples a bit bigger. I cut out each 1-inch square, then I'll use the fun-shaped scissors around 2 of the sides. Just like we did with drawing materials, I label the square so I know which scissors were used. If you have any scissors where the pattern is larger, you might need to test that on a longer piece like I am here. One very important thing to test is a hole punch, since you may likely be creating charms or pendants with your Shrinky Dinks. Once shrunk, the plastic is too thick and strong to punch, so you need to punch a hole before shrinking. I tested a teeny tiny hole punch, then a standard size punch. I couldn't find my single hole punch, so please ignore the fact that I'm using a 3-hole punch here. Again, it's important to label which tools you used so you remember when you reference this cheat sheet later while making your next project. Lay your pieces colored side up on a tinfoil lined baking sheet. It's helpful to bake similar sized pieces together, so I'll start with my small pieces, then bake the larger cheat sheet next. Follow the directions on your packaging. For me, that meant baking in an oven preheated to 325 degrees Fahrenheit for 1 to 3 minutes. Leave your oven closed. Mine is just open quickly to show you what's happening in there. You'll see the pieces start to curl up, then they will flatten back out. Once they flatten out, which is not shown here, leave in an additional 30 seconds, then remove them from the oven. If they are not perfectly flat, you can use the flat bottom of a bowl or cup to press them flat right after they come out of the oven. Be sure that everything is cooled before removing your Shrinky Dinks from the pan. Watching larger pieces bake can be particularly nerve-wracking because they curl up so much, but if you're patient, they will flatten back out. This one took the full 3 minutes plus an extra 30 seconds. With larger pieces, the corners can often be a little curly, so the bowl trick is super helpful here. Larger pieces will also take longer to cool. If you pick up too quickly, not only could you burn yourself, but the plastic is still soft and you could bend your piece. Now you've got your cheat sheet to reference on all future projects, and you learned some tips along the way. See how it shrunk from 6 inches to about 2.5? Now it's easier for you to visualize how large you should create your piece so that it shrinks to the size that you want. You can also see the difference in line weight from the fine point Sharpie to the Sharpie pen, which will be helpful as you make decisions for your next project. I can also see that the black of the Sharpie pen is a bit more solid. You can test with your fingernail and see that you are able to scratch the acrylic paint and the colored pencil. So you know that you probably want to add a coating of varnish, resin, or even clear nail polish to your finished project to protect it. Seeing your different hole punch widths here is very helpful to know what punch to use when making jewelry, so you have enough space for wire and jump rings. And check out these teeny tiny samples. I can reference the different scissors I tried. I can compare a 1-inch square to a 1-inch circle. And compare the circle to a square that I rounded using the corner rounder punch. You can also see where I used the corner rounder on the cheat sheet. It is a little rough, so I learned the punch needs to be perfect and clean because once shrunk, any imperfections are more noticeable. Now that you've experimented with Shrinky Dinks and learned a few tips, what are you planning on making? Let me know in the comments. I have a charm bracelet project planned that I will be sharing here soon. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Those simple actions really help me out and I truly appreciate it. Happy crafting!